Hi there folks, my name's David Readman. I'd like to welcome you back to my channel. Anybody that's just subscribed or just found my channel, thank you so much for getting involved in the channel. I recently made a solo record, which I'm still busy doing, but today is about something really different. I posted recently a video from Adagio. This is a band that I was involved in for the first time, I guess 2000. Let's go back to 2000 with you guys. I was 30 years old, and yeah, the album we're talking about, of course, is this one. I framed it. I hope it doesn't shine too much. Sanctus, Ignis, released in 2001, and yeah, basically it's real simple. Obviously Dennis Ward, the bass player from Pink Cream 69, he was doing a lot of mixing and mastering at the time in House of Audio. He was obviously going to many different places, but it just happened to be that he'd been contacted by Nothing to Say Records, which is quite a strange title in respect. I think it was taken from an Angra song, and basically he would make the next Adagio album, and I guess they were looking around for a singer, and we actually, Pink Cream 69, we played, I guess that year or the year before, we played in somewhere in France. There's actually a live video on YouTube if you search around, and it was a really great gig. I guess I was 29 at the time. Stefan was looking for a singer for this record. I guess in a way it was influenced a little bit, like you could, I mean, you probably know yourself from Symphony X, those kind of bands. Malmsteen, of course, was very important. So I was looking for somebody with an aggressive voice, and I'd done that kind of thing before, but not to this extent. And actually on this track, it's possibly the first track that we recorded on the session. And I think after doing this first song, Olivier Garnier, the boss of Nothing to Say Records, had actually said behind the scenes, you know, it should be singing more aggressive. So I think the rest of the record's quite possibly aggressive actually, but this song that you obviously is under the video, in Nomini, which basically I wrote the lyrics for. I didn't write, I think I wrote like four tracks, and I think Stefan and his then girlfriend wrote the other 4 tracks, basically lyric wise. That's another story, but basically Dennis had given me a call or sent me an email or something, and I said, yeah man, it sounds great, I'm really into it, it's very progressive. So he basically, you know, put me in contact with Stefan. He'd seen me at this gig, coming back to the gig in France. He'd seen me at this gig, and he'd made the decision that he's going to work with me, and obviously that's great stuff. This was at a time when there was probably a little bit of internet. You could send MP3s and stuff like that. It's a long time ago. We've tried to reform Adagio from time to time since then, but it's just not been possible. In all, if you don't know the history, we made 2 studio records, we made a live record, and both records being having a cult status and having a massive following. So basically I got the demos. I think he sent me a CD, maybe Dennis did, or maybe a couple of MP3s, and I was honestly quite surprised. Singing in Pink Cream 69 and doing other stuff, I was not really sure what was expected from this record, because it is very complicated. There's a lot of different keyboard instruments in there, obviously crazy guitars, bass and everything, mad drums that would be played by my great friend Dirk Bruinenberg, so you would say as a Nederlander, kind of an English Nederlander, which I learned later on, of course. Which was just amazing that he could do this kind of stuff, because obviously the demo was a drum machine, and somewhere I do have those demos. But you know, we met up in the studio. You know, basically the band were recording the songs. You know, it was like demo wise, honestly, you know, I would sit with Stefan and we would squeeze out some kind of melody stuff with some kind of lyrics or whatever that he already had, or some sort of concept that he already had for the record, and we'd do that for the 4 tracks where I'd written lyrics for. In the studio, the record's being made, it's unclear what the vocals are actually going to be doing, and that's what we did. So we spent like really 4 or 5 days, mayhem. You know, these guys were smoking like cigarettes all day long, drinking coffee all day long, and they were taking loads of paracetamols at the end of the session to kill their headache from the amount of crazy work that they were doing to make this record. And of course, Dirk's in the middle of all this. He's smoking, I guess, at that time. He doesn't smoke anymore. You know, to get this record made, and we knew that it was going to be something really special, of course. So basically, you know, after I'd done that, I went back to my small studio at home and I made demos with the lyrics and you know, so that everybody had an idea, you know, what I'm going to do on this record. Because honestly, like these days, it's not always like that these days. People have a demo, they sing a little bit themselves. So you've got an idea, you know, where you're going to go. But obviously this is all in Stefan Forde's head, basically. He's a young guy at the time. You know, I mean, I was about 30 at the time, he'd be about 26, 27, something like that. And he knew what he wanted to do, you know. And so I did this. So we started with this track, I guess, that you can hear underneath, and you'll be able to hear it, you know, a few times. The reason I'm doing this video is it's overdue. I needed to do it. And plus, I posted this song and it had like over 400 and something views within 2 days, which is just incredible, really. Which is great. Still a lot of fans out there, people very interested. So I decided it's time to make a video talking about, you know, how we made that record. You know, I can't do that in one video, of course. I can only touch the surface, you know, and I'm not going to go individual song wise, but to give you a feeling of that time in House of Audio in Karlsdorf, how we went about making this. So basically, you know, I'd made a demo. We started with this song. Actually, I'll need my glasses for this, unfortunately. Yeah, the In Nomine. And basically, it went really well. I'd written the lyrics, and I'd written lyrics that would fit really well with obviously the rhythm and everything. That was something that I strive to do today, and what I did basically back then, and we made it work, you know. A lot of the lyrics that Stefan had written at the time, he expected them to be sung in obviously with his French accent, you know. There was different accents with the different lyrics, so I had to change stuff and decide a different way of doing things. So it gave it, in a way, a different angle. I remember when we came to Panem et Circumstances, if that's even pronounced right, it's been so long. I remember Dennis turned to me and he said to me, I don't like any of it, right? Now that, for a singer in the studio, right, who's under pressure anyway to deliver, is a nightmare. So I remember with that song, we sort of had to go back to the drawing board and rebuild what we were going to do, and it would turn out to be one of the most like possible songs on the record. So we went back to the drawing board with Stefan and Dennis, and we basically decided we're going to do this in a different way, and that's what we did. I guess, like most things, the guys had like weeks to get the record, you know, to get the instruments down, and I had about 4 or 5 days basically. And in just 4 or 5 days, I did the backing vocals, did all the stuff I needed to do. I stayed in the studio at the time because it was just an incredible house of audio. Still to this day, you can stay there. And it is an incredible studio, of course, in Karlsdorf. Unexpected in a small village like that should have this like studio where so many different people have recorded at. Of course, times have changed a little bit as far as recording in a studio to have time and money to do that, but still it's possible, and I have actually recorded there since with Dennis. He still does a lot of sessions there and is incredible. So I got my vocals down and we mixed it, and wasn't long after that we would meet up in Paris, of course, to make to do like a photo session with a green screen. That's why you'll see a lot of pictures of me with a green screen at the back of me, which at the time I didn't really know about green screen. Of course, I'm recording this video with green screen, and at the time I was like, you know, why a green screen? And they ended up on the internet later, or at the time, where I was like, why green? It could have been black, but of course you could change the background, and that's what we did basically to create the background on the CD. The artwork turned out really fantastic. I really enjoyed the artwork at the time. To go into detail about that, you'd have to ask Mr. Stefan Fortier himself, you know. And no, it was just a fantastic time. We went to Paris, we looked around. I went and checked out Jim Morrison's grave. We did a lot of fantastic things, and it was just really an incredible time in my life, definitely. And then we would do the first tour with Adagio, and that would mean we would start from Paris. Stefan Fortier is originally from Montpellier, especially with Frank Hermany, Kevin Codvert on keyboards, and of course Dirk Braunenberg, who would never actually play live with a band, unfortunately. So when we actually got out there after the second record to do any live stuff, we actually had to meet up in Salon de Provence in France, and we would meet up and we would rehearse, and we would go out there for the first time. We'd start in Paris, and we'd do kind of like a circle, also going down to Montpellier. It was just really fantastic. I guess it was like the beginning of the year, March, April, so it was quite cold still in Germany where I was living at the time, so that when we moved on down into France, of course, it started to warm up in Salon de Provence. It was a beautiful time, of course. I have some small videos here and there's. So it was truly amazing, and to be on tour with these guys, you know, these amazing professional virtuoso musicians who are still at it to this day. They're still making a living, still making their money out of being incredible musicians, and that I had the chance to be a part of that. I'm really proud of it, you know. So I hope that's a little bit of information for you guys about the making of Sanctus Ignis. It was the first record from Adagio. It's something that's followed me for most of my life, you know. People have come up to me years after and said, oh, that's David Readman from Adagio, and it was just like, wow, man, I'd almost forgot all about it. Thanks for listening. You're watching my channel. Like and subscribe, and see you next time. Adios!